Hello geeks, I'm Gloryhound, and today we're going to do a quick play for Dead of Winter. Now a quick play is for players who have already played the game before but need a refresher course on how to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out if this is a game of betrayal. If it is not, we're going to get rid of all of the cards that have a plus sign with a little X through it here, and there's going to be character cards, there's going to be crossroad cards like that, and then we're also going to get rid of all of the secrets that say betrayal on them. The next thing that we're going to look at is if this game has kids in it. If kids are playing, you might want to remove these crossroad cards here that have a conversation bubble in the corner with an exclamation and a question mark on it. That just means that there's adult content in that card. After that, we have a whole lot of mixing to do. So you're going to set out your board and each location 1 through 6 out, okay? And each location is going to have a separate deck here of cards that you're going to mix. And you can see the little location down here. You match them up, mix them, throw them down. After that, you're going to mix up your exile deck. You're going to mix up your crossroads. You're going to mix up your characters. You're going to mix up your crisis deck. And you're going to mix up your starter deck, which looks much like the location cards, except it's going to have starter items right here in the bottom. After that, each player is going to get one of these nice little starting boards. In a 2-player game, they're going to receive 7 of these starter cards from here. In any other game, it's just going to be 5 cards. In a 2-player game, they're going to receive 4 of these cards, and they're going to pick 3 of them. In any other game, you're still going to receive 4 cards, but you're going to pick 2 characters to play for the game. Today, I'm going to be picking the librarian and the actress. After that, you're going to pick one of these players as your leader, which I will make Felicia Day. And then all of your other followers are going to go under here. Just to save space, though, I'm going to put her right there. At this point, you gotta use the little stabby knife here to figure out who the starting player is going to be. And that's going to be the person at the table with the highest initiative here. So just look around the table, see who has the highest, and give them the little stabby knife. After that, you're going to pick an objective. Now, these objective cards, there's quite a few of them here, but they suggest that you start with the one that says, "We need more samples." And what you're going to do is, this will give you the rest of the information to set up the game. This is the hardcore side right here. I don't recommend playing with that side, but you're going to throw this down. Then, morale tracker, it says it starts at 6. Round tracker says it starts at 6. It says add 1 zombie to each non-colony location, which I already have. I would add 1 to each of the locations. And then it gives you the notes for the victory. So you'll check this card at the end of each round to see if you have the victory on that. Then you're going to give each player a secret objective. If you were playing with betrayers, then you would take out 1 betrayal card here, and you would put that down, and then deal each player 2 cards. So each player, if I'm playing with 3 players, that's going to be 6 cards. I put it in with the betrayal card. I mix them all up, and then I deal 1 to each player. That's going to be your secret card for the game. You put that over here. And if those conditions are not met at the end of the game, then you're not going to win. Now we're going to select how many dice we need. You always get 1 dice, and then you get 1 dice for each player that you have out here, or each little person, okay? So that's how many dice I would start with. Now it's time to start player turns. Now I love this little card right here because this is going to pretty much tell you everything you need to do from now on. The only thing that I add to it is at the beginning of a round, I hand each player a crossroads card, and that's going to be for the player to your right, okay? I put it here just so I remember to read it. They do have an app online, though, that you can use for that, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and go down the player turn phase right here. So the first thing you're going to do is reveal the crisis. Put that out right there. You're going to roll all of your action dice that you have right here and put them in the unused portion here. And then you're going to go ahead and take player turns. That moves us over to this portion here. Actions that require dice are up at the top here. Actions that do not require dice are right here. You can use as many actions as you want as long as you can legally make those actions, okay? So we're just going to go down the board. The first thing is attacking. To attack, you're going to use one of your dice here, but the number on the dice has to be greater than this symbol right here. And it's different for each card, okay? So I'm going to have equal or greater than 2, which means I could expend these 2 dice, but not this one, in order to attack something. I can attack a zombie, or I can attack another survivor. If I attack a zombie and I expend that dice, then the zombie automatically dies, and I get to roll this nifty exposure dice right here. We'll go over that here in just a few minutes. If I'm attacking a survivor, that's a little different. For example, if I was attacking this survivor right here, I'm going to take the dice that I just used and I'm going to re-roll it. I need to be equal or lower than this value right here. My attack would fail at this point. I could use another dice to try to attack him again, but I would have to do the same thing. I would have to roll it and see if I was able to wound him. If I did make a successful attack, I would throw one little wound marker on him, right there. If he gets 3 of them, he's dead. Now, to search, you're gonna have to move, which is a free action. You get to do it once per turn. You go to a location, there has to be an open location spot up here, and then you're gonna expend a dice. Same way you're going to attack here. You're going to use the little looking glass thing here, so I'd be able to expend one of those right there and search. This means that I get to draw 1 card from this pile. At this point, I can choose to keep this card, or I can start making noise. And if I want to make noise, I put one of these little tokens out right here, and I get to draw another card. Now I have 2 cards, and I get to choose between these. The one that I do not want to use gets to go at the bottom of the deck, and the one that I get to keep, say I want to keep the shotgun, is going to stay in my hand. The bad thing about making noise is the fact that I'm going to have to do a roll on each of these to see what spawns here later on. The next action on our list here is barricade. I just have to expend any die here, and I can create a barricade. It's one of these little tokens here. You can create it here, create it here. You just gotta make sure you have people there to create the barricade, okay? Next is clean waste. So whenever you're using these awesome little cards here, you have to discard them into the waste pile. And as waste starts building up, that gets bad. And once you get up to 10 cards, then that's gonna start penalizing you for the rest of the game. And this particular one just lets you draw 3 off the top and discard them from the game. Then we have attract. You can attract 2 zombies to any location that you're at. You do have to expend a dice here, but it's pretty helpful if you're going to end up getting overran. After that, we have free actions right here. You can play a card at any time. And that's going to be these cards right here again. You can play it for whatever the value is here, or you can also add it to the crisis contribution. Now when you're adding it to the crisis contribution, like right here we need fuel for this, I would put it face down here so nobody knows what I'm putting in there, especially if you're playing with a betrayer. You can also go ahead and move a survivor, which I did with Felicia Day right here, and you can only do that 1 time for each survivor. So since I moved her, I can't move her back to the colony at this point. But I could move somebody here. Every time you move, though, keep in mind, you do have to roll for exposure, okay? Another thing we can do here is spend food tokens. Now, I don't have any food tokens in the food supply, but if I did, and I did not have a used dice, I had one of these here, I could always spend one of these tokens and then increase my die roll. So this would become a 2. That's not necessarily what you want to do because food's pretty dang important in the game, but it is an option. Next, you can always request cards. So if you really needed something, you would be able to ask all the players, and they don't have to give you the card, but if they do, you have to use it right now. You can also hand off for free on your turn. For example, since I did have this super awesome gun that I picked up, if I equipped it on Felicia Day, and then I used my move here to move her over to the police station, I could re-equip this to my other character. The other thing that you can do on your turn is vote to exile. And you can choose anybody at the table you want to exile. Everybody has to vote yay or nay. And then first player will break ties on that. And we'll get into exile a little bit later. There is one other thing that you can do that is not on this list, and that is going to be actually on the player cards right here, okay? So you can use this action right here whenever you want and as many times as you want unless it says otherwise on the card, okay? There's also a little portion of the card here. Some of the actions do require an expenditure of dice, and it will have a number with a plus sign next to it and some parentheses. You have to expend a dice equal or greater to the value of that expenditure right there. And other than that, that's all for the player's turn actions. Next, we're going to go ahead and move on to the colony phase. Now, in the colony phase, the first thing you have to do is pay food. Right here. Each food is going to feed 2 people in your colony. Since I have nobody in my colony right now, having 1 food in here is totally fine. But if there were a bunch of people in the colony and I was unable to feed them, then I would get a starvation token. Starvation is going to make your morale go down each turn that it's in there, and if you had 2 of them in there, then it would go down 2 for each turn. So that gets really bad. You don't want your people to starve. The next thing you're going to do is check for waste in your waste pile right here. Now, for every set of 10 cards in your waste pile, you're going to get your morale to go down. Morale is super important in this game. It's usually the one single way that I die. Next, we're going to go ahead and resolve our crisis. Now, the most important part of resolving your crisis is mixing up the crisis cards. Because if there's some sort of betrayer in the group, you don't want them to get found out right away, okay? So as you reveal the cards, and you do it one by one, you have to have one with a matching symbol for each player here. So say, for example, we were having a 3-player game. We'd have 1, 2, 3, and then any odd items that are in here are going to negate one of these cards. So we can just take these away. And we completely failed our crisis here, our fuel shortage, and then the bad stuff happens. If you ended up passing and this isn't an issue, it just gets discarded, these get discarded, and then you move along with your game. After that, you're going to add zombies. Now, to outside locations here, you add 1 zombie for each player. So since I have 2 people out here, I would add 2 zombies to this location, and I would look at all the other locations and figure out how many zombies to add to each location. Then I would check and see how many noise tokens are here. I take off the noise token, and then I take one of these awesome D6s. On a 1 to 3, we get a zombie there. So this would spawn a total of 3 zombies here. 1, 2, 3. And this barricade would take care of one of them. If you're spawning zombies inside the colony, you have the same ratio as the food tokens. So for every 2 people, you're going to spawn 1 zombie. And whenever you're spawning them, they're going to rotate around here. So if I was spawning 7 zombies, I would spawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. And they fill up all the empty spaces first, and then they go ahead and take down the barricades, and if they are completely full, then you're going to get overrun. Now, getting overrun is really bad, because the person with the lowest initiative in that area just dies, and then they get discarded and the zombie gets discarded. If there's nobody in the colony and it gets overrun, doesn't matter. Same with locations. If there's nobody at the location and it gets overrun, doesn't matter. If there's helpless survivors in the colony, then those helpless survivors die and you lose morale. If you get overrun and one of your people dies, even though they're outside, you lose morale. Next thing, we're going to check the main objective. That would be this victory condition here. If it has been completed, then yay, you have won the game. If not, it's time to move the round tracker down. You only have so many rounds here in order to win the game. After that, we're going to pass the first player's stabby knife over to the next player. last but not least, I do have a few notes. One is this exposure die. You roll it whenever you move, and you roll it whenever you are killing a zombie. Now, if you get a blank, that's completely fine. That's what you want to see. If you get one of these little wound markers here, then you put a wound token on that person. If you get one of these little frosty wound tokens here, it's frostbite, then you put one of those tokens on that person. And this will give you another damage for every round that this is on the person. So right now, next round, when it's my turn, this person will die, okay? If you get the little bite token, that's probably the worst thing that you could get. At that point, if you get the bite token, that person is discarded from the game. Sorry about that, Felicia. And then it is spread. So right now, Felicia's at this location, she dies, and she gets a chance of spreading it. At this point, you can do one of two things. The first is you could just kill the person on sight, and that would end it. They would die, and then voila, nothing is passed on. The other thing you can do is take a chance and roll the dice again. If you rolled a blank in this case, then everything is fine. It was just a scratch. Nothing happened. But if you roll anything else, then that person dies and the infection spreads to the next person with the lowest initiative. It can get really bad really fast, and you especially don't want it happening whenever you're going to the colony. Now, if I had lost all of my people here, then at this point I would discard all of my cards that I have, all of my equipment, and I do get to draw one new survivor from the deck right here. That would be my new survivor that I get to work with, and I would get my hand refilled with starter cards. So I get 5 brand new starter cards to start the game with. Also, if you're ever adding a brand new person or any sort of survivors to the game, they immediately go into the colony first. If the colony is completely full, well, guess what? You can't spawn any new people now. And last but not least is exiled. If you get exiled, you get to flip over one of these awesome little cards here, and then you get a completely different objective from the rest of the game. You're working completely separate from everybody. You end up having to move all of your people out of the colony to a location. You are no longer able to get into the colony. You're no longer able to use the food. You're no longer able to contribute to the shortage. You are no longer able to do anything with inside this colony area here. You also are no longer able to place any helpless survivors here. They just automatically get discarded from the game. And you cannot vote with the other players, and if you have any sort of waste that you're discarding here, it doesn't get discarded here, it gets removed from the game. Other than that, that's it. So if you liked my video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and send me some love by hitting that subscribe button below. If there's any other games that you want to see a quick play for, let me know. And other than that, thank you for watching and happy gaming.